This week on WLVIII Channel 58, it's Outdoors is the Shits, a holiday extravaganza. Celebrate the holidays with the people who can tell you the best malt liquor to have with skunk or fish or cat.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Outdoors is the Shits Holidays Extravaganza Fancy Show. I'm Zeke. My brothers Deke and Reed Deke won't be joining us on account his days in the hospital after playing dueling William Tells with crossbows the week before. With Frank's Gibbles approaching, I'm sure y'all wondering where to be the best place to get yourself a turkey. I know some of y'all would say the grocery store, but you'd be wrong. Grocery stores is only for woke snowflake colonist bastards. Real Americans hunt for turkeys in their backyards or their neighbors' yards. But you might also be lucky enough to run one over in your pickup truck. But if you don't have time or the luxury to run ones over, you can always shoot one, like I'm about to do. It would seem I missed it hit my brother-in-law, Uncle Bert, in the arm instead. And I managed to royally piss off a whole lot of turkeys while I was trying to shoot one, who was all running in my direction. And seeing that I only had one shotgun shell, I'm probably going to have to defend myself by beating off a bunch of turkeys again. Oh, sweet Jeebus! There's so many of them! Why not just run them over with my truck in the first place? Somebody send help! Or propane grill!
All this and less on Outdoors is the Shit, only on Channel 58. And please stop reminding us of that.
Excuse me, do you mind if I join you?
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Suppository. I'm Brett Herholtz.
And I'm Andrew Shanley.
And about a week or so ago, longtime Batman actor Kevin Conroy recently passed away. And for a lot of us, I mean, he was Batman. I mean, starting in September of 1992 when Batman the Animated Series came out, he just embodied that character so much. And I so remember it because it's like I think in the first show I mentioned, I had my doubts coming into the series because so many of the superhero or versions of Batman had been like the Super Friends. So I thought this was going to be like the Hanna-Barbera version of Batman.
Yeah.
And when I finally saw it, it was so much better than I could have possibly imagine it being, because they took so much from like the Superman the Fleischer Superman cartoons of the 1930s and sort of added that dark deco feeling to it. And a lot of the success, and I feel like a lot of, why it works so well was because of Kevin Conroy's portrayal of Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things about voice actors is that they don't have to be buff and chiseled like people. They really personify the character through their voice. And, Batman the Animated Series was definitely, I think, the one thing that kind of made him stand out in the crowd as a voice actor.
Oh, absolutely.
For the career that he had.
And he didn't really start out as a voice actor.
He did not.
He was he'd done a little bit of, television and film acting, but he had been a stage actor, and he actually just got the part because he was doing stage. He was starting to do radio spots.
Some of the highlights of his career include guest starring on shows like Dynasty, Matlock, Spencer for Hire. He was on Tour of Duty. He was on Cheers.
He was a working actor.
Yep. He was on Murphy Brown. He was on a whole bunch of like other products, pretty much as a bit player, or he played characters that were in like shows for like an episode or a few episodes, doing those types of roles.
And it just happened to be a chance that, at the time he was doing a lot of like radio work, and his agent had just said, hey, they're looking for a voice for this new Batman cartoon coming out, and I really think you should try out for it.
Yeah.
And one of the brilliant things about that is, I guess early on, he was the one who suggested to Bruce Timm and company that they should do two different voices for both Batman and Bruce Wayne, because his idea was, it's like, this is the richest guy in the city. It's like, people aren't going to notice that, his voice strangely sounds like Bruce Wayne. So when he was doing Bruce Wayne, which was like kind of like his own natural voice, maybe he said like a little bit higher, but it was the Batman voice that he sort of went down to that sort of lower growl, that sort of Clint Eastwood sort of growl. But as time went on, he kind of began to feel that was Bruce Wayne's real voice, and Bruce Wayne was really just the mask, and Batman was his true identity, and that was the character who he really was, and you could feel that in his acting.
Yeah,
and I feel like with Batman the animated series, that was really the blueprint of how you really do a really good Batman production. I mean, because they really delve deep into the mythology and the lore, and especially a lot of the incidental characters in Batman, but also the level of humor Kevin Conroy himself added to the role. I was actually watching one of the clips recently where it has like the Joker, dying in this plane explosion, and Batman's sort of parachuting to safety with Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn screams "Puddin'," and suddenly, Batman, Kevin Conroy in the Batman voice goes, "Well, right now he probably is." And it was just such a great line because it was so dark, but it just fit the character. And it's just like, that is what I feel like is missing in a lot of the Batman movies, is that level of humor. It's like, yeah, it can be dark, but it also can have a lot, Batman, there's a lot of humor to it. And in Kevin Conroy's performance and just the way that series was produced, I think he was the best Batman in the past 30 years, hands down. I mean, I like the Michael Keaton movie, but I think Kevin Conroy's Batman was so much better than anybody who's taken on the role.
Well, like I said, I mean, obviously he was a voice actor, and you don't have to be the chiseled, good-looking Brad Pitt type to do that.
Oh no, absolutely not.
And I think that like some of the highlights of the thing is the fact that he was able to continue doing the Batman voice not only through the animated series, but all through the DC movies that they had, and also they did the video games with him too.
And those were amazing. I mean, because it's like his thing was, it's like he asked, "Is Mark Hamill involved?" And they say yes. He goes, "Then I'm doing it." I mean, that they would like. It was like the perfect Batman and Joker.
It really was.
Even with some of the stuff that recently that has been kind of criticized by fans, like the Batman Harley Quinn movie that came out that had Melissa Ron. I don't know how her name is pronounced. Rosh, who's played Howard Wolowitz's girlfriend, later wife in Big Bang Theory, played the Harley Quinn in that movie. And they also had them in the adaptation of The Killing Joke. They were still great. They, it's like their performances were still great. And even watching the recent Dark Knight Returns, which had RoboCop in it, Peter Weller as Batman, all I could think of the whole time is like, he's doing a good job, but I wish it was Kevin Conroy. And that's the kind of footprint he's left.
I think that if you have to pick any scene that really kind of in the whole animated series of when he was Batman, one of my favorite scenes of his is when he was like had to go up against Ace. Do you remember that?
Explain it to me. I probably do, but I'm blanking.
It was an
right
episode.
Now.
It was an episode which included like Waller from the government. And she was,
okay. It was one of the Justice League episodes, or
I believe it was. It was Justice League. I believe it was Justice League United.
Oh,
it was
Unlimited. Yes.
Yeah, Unlimited. And basically, it was where Batman is being asked by Waller to take down Ace. Like they're telling him to kill her, and Ace is.
Oh
dying.
My goodness, you're right.
And so what happens is Batman enters the realm that she encompasses.
Yes, you're right.
And, she's just basically sitting on a swing set.
I know the scene you talk about now. I was just watching that last night.
And when she's sitting there, she's like, they sent you in to kill me. He's like, yeah, they did. And he's like, I could stop you. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, I don't want to do it. I'm just going to sit here with you until, and she's like, can you just sit here with me until it's over? And she's like, he's like, yeah.
Batman,
Ace,
did you like playing with my new Royal Flush Gang?
can't say that I did.
Yeah, They aren't any fun at all. I gave them their powers and they still hardly ever play with me.
Can't imagine why.
When I was little, Cadmus used to make me play all kinds of games, but they weren't any fun either. They'd strap me into their machines and poke wires into my brain. Ace, can you move this object with your mind? Yeah, I can move it. They weren't really games, you know. They were training me, turning me into a weapon for justice, they said. They got their weapon. I got cheated out of my childhood.
I know what that's like.
You do, don't you? You don't have to answer. I read your mind. That's how I knew you weren't going to use Mrs. Waller's weapon on me.
No, I wasn't.
You were going to try and talk me into fixing what I've changed. Before I die.
Yes.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
And I think that, you know, his personification of that character and in that scene really kind of like says a lot about what Batman is.
There's so many scenes you could talk about from like the original run of the animated
Tons.
series. I mean, still, a few of my favorite episodes is like I think it was the first one with Mr. Freeze, and that was the one that they really, made Mr. Freeze a really interesting character and not just another like a jokey villain from the past where he's Batman's finding out the truth, what happened to his wife, and he's looking at the files, and he's just like,
My God. Yes. It would move me to tears if I still had tears to shed.
scenes like that, scenes like
Well, I
that
mean,
where
Yeah, I mean, like, well, the whole series of the animated series was essentially made for kids, but there was definitely the people who had created it were like fans of, and they knew that they wanted to create like an atmosphere
absolutely
for adults to enjoy as well.
Well, not only that, there were guys that worked on various projects like the Super Friends who were just so frustrated. Said, "I want, we want to create a Batman series that is true to the character." And I mean, it was a fantastic voice cast. I mean,
I remember watching it in college.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I think that was one of the things about Kevin Conroy was that he created a Batman that wasn't just like this Justice Super Friends, the League of Super Acquaintances, kind of hokey kind of thing where Batman and Robin are like literally flying like Superman and Wonder Woman. Even though Wonder Woman had a jet and everything. It just looked really hokey back in the 70s. But Kevin Conroy and all the other people that worked on the animated series and the DC films really made a TV show and a series of animated products that, yes, it was for kids, but it also was for adults. And I think that really resonated with the fan base.
I think that's the high watermark of any series is you could, the kids can watch it and enjoy it. And the adults don't feel embarrassed by watching it. It's like, watching old episodes of the Super Friends, you're like, I know. Work. But again, it was that performance. And it was like, he wasn't somebody who really knew, he wasn't, like an aficionado of Batman, I don't think. He was somebody, he came in and he really only knew about the Adam West series. But I mean, a lot of the times those are the best people to sort of take on these roles. And like I said, he was a theater and radio actor, and a lot of it's like this. It's sort of voice acting and theater acting really go hand in hand in the sense that voice acting and theater acting really go hand in hand in the sense that they you use your voice. You have to project when you're on stage, just like when you're a voice actor, you have to give emotions through your character. You're not doing it through action, which it's like I think I always kind of get annoyed with a lot of these Pixar movies or DreamWorks movies that
they're all the same.
Well, it's the fact that they get like the main really big known actors to do these roles, and it's like I think it's really an insult to a lot of these voice actors who are trying to make a living.
I'll just go off on Pixar for just a minute. They're all the same.
Yeah.
they've been all the same probably since like the late 2000s. All they're all the same. I think that Up was probably the last really good Pixar movie that they made. But one of the things that I think is that they you need to create something different and unique. And I think that's one thing about animation that really is an amazing thing, is like you're not tethered by the real world, by actual physical sets and actual physical actors and actual physical set pieces and action set pieces. You can create, virtually anything in animation and make anybody see whatever you want. And that's the thing. The thing about the Batman the Animated Series is that it was simplistic, but it was complex at the same time.
It took a very, they called it Dark Deco, and I mean it just
That's a very good example.
It fit the feel of the series, and it was Kevin Conroy led a really great cast of actors, and I mean a lot of his success was due to Andrea Romano, who is a fantastic voice director, and she had like this great ear of finding people who were right for the role, and she was the person she was one of the people that decided Kevin Conroy was right for the role of Batman. And I'll say it again, he is my favorite Batman, even more than say Michael Keaton. I mean, what he did with the role, a lot of like the ones who've come after him, even the Christian Bale version of Batman, I get tired of, because it always has to be dark, it always has to be gritty, it always has to be real. The thing I like about the Kevin Conroy role is that that level of humor that was still in the Batman comics, even in like the Neil Adams run in the 1970s, and that's the thing a lot of these movies miss. And I mean, like I said, Batman the Animated Series should have been the blueprint for Batman films and television series going forward, and they just have not listened.
No, I think that if there's any major criticism, I think one of the biggest issues with Batman movies is that they don't hit the tone right, because you have all these directors who they don't know specifically how to translate the character to their version of the film.
I can understand it's tough,
I can appreciate, especially when you have directors. I mean, we've had Tim Burton, we've had Joel Schumacher, we had Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
We've had this latest one, The Batman.
Yeah.
With Christian, and I kind of like look at it like this: to create the same tone that the animation can do, it's virtually impossible, because
this is very true. Yes,
it's very difficult, because with actors, they age.
Yes.
Cars and technology change.
Yes.
Even technology for how things are shot it evolves, and even styles can change. Animation can stay something a little more constant than that.
I think that was actually one of the great things about the animated series, is by making it almost like 1930s mixed with like 1990s, it added to a timelessness, because
it did.
I think a lot of the times, if you try to make things very now and very hip, it does date a film. Even the Tim Burton ones, they did give that very 1940s feel, and it did give a little bit of you didn't know where to put the time, the time period. And I think both the Burton film and the animated series, that was a big help to it, where a film can get very dated very quick by trying to make it very quote unquote cool for the kids.
Absolutely. It's just that he didn't just do just Batman. He also did Masters of the Universe.
That's right. He did Merman
guys
in that one.
Yep, and he also was Hordak, apparently.
Was it? I didn't know, but I could see that. I mean, and that's the thing about a great voice actor is great voice actors is they usually do more than one character per animated series, because I mean, that's what they're getting paid to do, is just create characters. That's what pays their bills. And I mean, they don't get enough credit, especially him. well, I shouldn't say that, because it's like I have a lot of friends who love the animated series and have just expressed their absolute love for Kevin Conroy's portrayal of Batman. And I think one of the most amazing and wonderful things he's done recently is the fact that he actually he actually wrote his coming out story in a recent, I think it was like an anthology for DC Comics. They were doing like a Pride anthology or something to commemorate Pride Day, and he decided to share his own story.
And he was just he was a brilliant guy. The other thing about him is that he really did enjoy his time.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
the fans. We have friends of the program, obviously,
Yes,
who have had personal interactions with.
And I am so
Kevin.
jealous. I mean, that's one of the things I really regret, is not getting a chance to meet him.
And-
Seeing his name at conventions, thinking, "Oh, I'm, maybe I'll see him next time," and thinking, now there's not a next time, and it stinks.
And some of these friends of the program, they had really great personal interactions with him.
Yes.
They shared time with him. They shared panels with him. They were there with him.
I've read some of them,
those
and
times.
it's like,
And I'm like reading some of these off the social media posts that we interact with, and it's just like he really did touch. He was more than just an actor. He really touched a lot of people.
He really did. It was just like you watch him in interviews, and he seemed so grateful for his time, and he just seemed to even though he might have not really known much about the character to begin with, it's like he had such a passion for the character. It's such a love for playing the character, and just a thankfulness for the fans.
Absolutely.
And it was just like, and so it's like you couldn't help but really enjoy this guy. And one of my favorite stories I heard about him is apparently, like, it must have been early on in his career, where he was like, he had to get up early one morning. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's going out to post his mail, and I think there was a guy sitting on the side of the road, and he's just like thinking he's going to beg for change, and I don't know if he asked him for change or something like that, and he just says, "I'm sorry, I don't have anything on me right now." And he's like, and the guy's like, "Wait a minute, you're Batman." And then he's thinking to himself, he goes, "Oh God, I hope this isn't somebody I actually know, and this is going to be what I'm going to turn out like." He's like, he goes, "Come on, man, you got to say it. You got to say the line." He's like, "Oh, okay." So he says, I get into character, and he just says, "I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman." And he goes, and then he says, and from the background I hear, "Hey, Batman, shut the fuck up. We're trying to sleep." Such a great story. I mean,
that's a good story.
I mean, it's just like, the fact that he would, I guess the guy he was saying to was like really getting into it. It's like, yeah. But I mean, like you said, I mean, I actually ended up, a friend of mine has the VR headsets, which are absolutely amazing. And one of the games he has is Arkham, which it's one of the Arkham games that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill did. So it's like, you're putting on the headset, and you can hear Kevin Conroy's voice in your head, in your head. And it's like one of these points where my friend says, "Now turn around and look in the mirror," and you look in the mirror, and you see Batman looking back at you. And I'm like, and then that's where you're thinking, like, holy shit, I'm Batman. But then all of a sudden you can hear, like, Mark Hamill's like, "Oh, there you are, Batman." And it's just like, I mean, the fact that, it's like the two of them, it's like whatever project, they were doing, it's like, if Mark's doing the project, I'm going to be a part of this.
One thing I wish that would be kind of funny if Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy ever got a chance to do this, is if they were able to read a script from Batman the Animated Series, but Mark Hamill would read Batman as the Joker, and Batman, and he would read the Joker.
Oh, that would be
Batman.
crazy.
I mean, that would be like something that would only happen at a convention if they could do it. But it would be something that would be so funny.
Yeah, I know. Actually, it's funny because the two of them actually ended up doing other voices on Batman Brave and the Bold with Diedrich Bader as Batman, which honestly, for my money, I think Diedrich Bader might be a second to Kevin Conroy, and he's not somebody that you'd expect to be a great Batman, because it's like this is the guy who was like Drew Carey's wacky friend from the Drew Carey show, as well as the neighbor from Office Space. Hey Peter, I see naked chicks on the TV right here. Doing a really great Batman. But apparently there was an episode where Kevin Conroy was actually playing Phantom Stranger, and Mark Hamill was doing the voice of the Spectre on one of these episodes. And
oh wow,
it was really great. And actually, there was another episode where Kevin Conroy plays a Batman from an alternate planet. So it's like you hear like Diedrich Bader's Batman with Kevin Conroy's Batman, and the episode was great because it was like suddenly Batman on this planet suddenly had superpowers the way Superman had superpowers on Earth. Whereas in with the Earth, Superman's powers are caused by Earth's yellow sun. I feared it was caused by some sort of a different sun on a different planet gave Diedrich Bader's Batman superpowers. But the other great thing I think was a really great nod and a really great tribute to Kevin Conroy was the fact that they had him play Batman live action on the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, where he kind of played a cross between the Kingdom Come Batman from the Alex Ross books, as well as a little bit of the Batman from Dark Knight Returns, where this is like a Batman from a parallel Earth where he's been like beaten down by all the criminals, and he's like he's like got like an exoskeleton kind of helping him to walk. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I haven't.
It's fantastic because he basically Batman is evil on this Earth, and he killed Superman.
Okay.
So it's like the whole story is like they're trying to find like the paradigms of good, truth, and justice, and they're hoping this version of Batman is the paradigm of truth and or justice or whatever. And so Supergirl and Batwoman go to this Earth, and they find him, and they find out he's actually become so bitter and so enraged by everything. He actually killed the Superman of this Earth. And there's this great line where Batman's just saying,
Strange visitor from another planet comes to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Clark always said yes to anyone with a badge or a flag. He gave them too much power. My parents taught me a very different lesson. Life only makes sense if you force it to. A little souvenir from the old hometown.
A lot of the fans were kind of pissed off because it made this version he was playing kind of an evil version of Batman. But oh my goodness, you've got to give him props because he just gave a really great performance.
He did.
And of course, it's like his exoskeleton's being powered by kryptonite. So, he hits Supergirl. So it's like, oh gosh, Batman's a bastard. But it was a really, I mean, I like the DC TV output, and it's just like the fact that they did this sort of nod and just this sort of tribute to Kevin Conroy's time as Batman, saying this is something, he played an important character. His Batman was just as important as the Tim Burton or whatever versions came after that.
I think that there's definitely a very special place in the history of comic book fandom for what Kevin Conroy gave to so many people.
I couldn't agree more.
There's so much that we can say about him. So many nice things. Obviously, he was just a talented individual who gave his all, and he proved that anybody could be the hero. And again, like I said, one of the biggest things about voice acting is you don't have to be a chiseled Brad Pitt to be the hero. You can have the right voice and characterize any particular person, and he just nailed it.
Well,
you just
reminded me of something, because it's like there's a voice actor by the name of Kevin Arnold Smith who occasionally would do the voice of Fred Flintstone, and he's a little guy. He's like only like maybe 5'4", 5'5". He's not that tall of a guy, but it's like one of those things. He was trying out for the voice of Fred Flintstone, and the previous voice of Fred Flintstone, Henry Corden, was there at the he decided to retire, aside from like maybe doing Fruity Pebble ads, but he was, they were sort of listening to the different people trying out for the voice of Fred Flintstone, and the guy was doing the voice. Kevin Arnold Smith was doing the. I might be saying his name wrong. I apologize if I do. And if people want to give me the right name, write into the mental suppository, and nobody will respond. But he was doing the voice, and the directors were hemming and hawing, and Henry Corden says, stop looking at the person behind the mic and listen to the voice.
Yeah.
And from that, it changed. So it's the same thing. I mean, I think that's what people need to realize. It's like, you can look like us, and you could still do the voice of a certain character as long as you have those chops to really be able to, dig down deep and really pull that voice out. I mean, it's all about, that sort of talent with your voices.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was great that came out, and I didn't appreciate it till much, much later, was Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Because I think at the time I wanted another Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman film, but I ended up seeing it like years and years later. And that film, for, Kevin Conroy alone, is probably one of the best Batman movies ever.
Oh, yeah.
Or otherwise.
I would highly recommend to anybody who is definitely a fan of the animated series to see that movie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it was for free on Netflix for a while. I don't think it is anymore, but it was just such a great
I remember movie. It came out in theaters.
Yes, it did.
It came out in theaters, and it was sort of like, they had done the animated series for about a season, and then this came out, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. I would recommend.
It's wonderful.
I think that was the film that really kicked off the DC cinematic, like animated universe.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's so many different levels. The animated series of movies that have been made since that movie came out really kind of proved there was a market for that kind of product.
Oh, absolutely. If it wasn't for the Batman the animated series, there wouldn't have been that like DC animated universe. I mean, that sort of really started it off, because from there you had like the Superman animated series, and then they did the crossover between Superman and Batman, and that led to like Batman Beyond, which led to like the Justice League series. And I mean, actually, Kevin Conroy's voice as the older Batman in that, basically saying, kind of just basically saying, fuck the Bruce Wayne persona, and just talks like Batman the whole time.
Well, I mean, like, if I'm going to go back to like some of the scenes in the Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes,
there's that scene where he's saying like Bruce is falling in love with this Andrea, and he's like, yes, I didn't count on being happy.
Right, that's a great. You're right. That's a great scene.
I mean, that, and you didn't really see that out of like Batman cartoon shows.
And let's be honest, that the Andrea character was so much better than the Rachel Dawes character from the Christopher Nolan's movies.
And yeah,
and more dimensional.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
heck, a cartoon was more dimensional than a live action
2D, movie. 2D convention,
animation,
animation, and a lot of props to the people who created that show.
And it gave a very interesting origin to the Joker too.
It did.
I mean, it's just like, he was just kind of a hired goon, whereas, either sometimes he was a failed comedian, or sometimes he was, like in the Tim Burton's, he was like this gangster, but, like to have him as kind of like this sort of a side character. He's like, oh, and you don't even realize it at first. And you realize, oh, that was the Joker. Yeah. And that was brilliant. I really like that.
There's so much about that show. So many things.
Oh my goodness. Yes. But actually, another great scene I talk about Batman Beyond was there was an episode where I can't completely remember what was going on, but somebody was like getting into people's heads and like trying to make them go insane, and they'd also targeted Bruce Wayne, Batman.
Mhm.
And at one point, the Terry McGinnis character was saying to Bruce, he was saying, you know,
Tell me something. Why were you so sure those voices weren't coming from you?
Well, first, I know I'm not psychotic.
I hope your other reason is more convincing.
And second, the voice kept calling me Bruce. In my mind, that's not what I call myself.
What do you call yourself? Oh yeah, I suppose you would. But that's my name now.
Tell that to my subconscious.
and I just love that line. It was just, and again, Kevin Conroy's delivery as the character. He, you know, as much as he really made you believe it, you know, he was a young Batman and Bruce Wayne. You know, he really made you believe he was like that older grizzled Batman. At a time, he wasn't that old.
Yeah.
And that's the earmark of not only a great voice actor, but a great actor.
Yeah. He really did personify that character so well.
He did. And even some of the later ones he did. I mean, I didn't necessarily care for like their adaptation of The Killing Joke, but honestly, him and Mark Hamill were just really great, and just for that alone, they were worth watching the movie. I didn't like the whole Batman on Batgirl sex scene on the top of the Batman on Batgirl, and it's just like that was unnecessary. It was like they were trying to like stretch out the story, and I just thought you didn't have to do that. You could have just stuck to the story. I mean, but it's worth it. I mean, Tara Strong was a great Batgirl in the movie, and both Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy. I couldn't picture anybody else, you know, doing an adaptation of that particular Batman story.
Yeah. You know, well, what else can we say about Kevin Conroy other than he was a fantastic voice actor.
He was great to the fans.
To the fans.
Yeah, he was somebody who just he appreciated the fans. He just appreciated, their love for, this version of Batman he created.
And he cared enough about the product that even if he didn't know enough about it, he learned.
That's exactly it.
And he adapted to it. You know, you don't see a lot of, especially today, where you have people who just take a job and a role, and they're just gonna you like it because I say so.
And I'm sure 30 years ago he didn't think this was going to be like a 30-year career for him. That it's like maybe I think that's a lot of acting in general. It's like you take it on as a job. You not cynically. Just it's one of those things. It pays the bills, but it's like, am I really going to make? Make an impression? Am I going to really leave a long shadow with this role?
Yeah,
he most certainly did, because honestly, in the animated world, I cannot picture anybody else in the role of Batman. And there's a lot of great voice actors right now who are doing the role, like I mentioned with like Diedrich Bader, but he's got some very big boots to fill. That's for sure.
He sure does. It's going to be interesting to see what they do now.
Yep, but I mean, just like I when I heard the news, I was sad, because it's like one of those things. It felt like, I don't want to say like the end of my childhood, but it was the end of an era. It was like one of those
definitely was.
It's you're always hoping for the next project with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and just you look forward to it because they just so personified those characters, and just to know that it's just like it's sad.
I think that it is sad, but it also makes you appreciate what they left behind more.
Oh, absolutely.
So I mean, even though it's kind of like the Fall Guy TV show, like the whole opening where the guy's like the stunt man and he doesn't get the girl at the end, but he makes the guy look good.
Yes.
And that's what Kevin Conroy did. And a lot of people really don't give a lot of voice actors a lot of attention. Unless you're a big famous actor like, Mark Hamill or like some other big, huge star. Like,
and even at the time,
Batman, Pixar film.
And honestly, at the time when Batman the Animated Series came out, Mark Hamill was just starting another career as a voice actor too. I mean, that was one of those things. It's like, it's like, I don't want to say he'd been typecast as the Luke Skywalker role, but it's one of those things. This really kind of kickstarted a second career from, and there were just so many great voice actors on that series that sort of supported Kevin Conroy's Batman. I mean, David Warner as Ra's al Ghul, not Richard Williams. He was the singer. Paul Williams as the Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
All the just like and a lot of these like people who had just worked as voice actors. Diana Pershing's as Poison Ivy, who had worked in the Flash Gordon series. Lauren Lester, who had done numerous like voice acting work.
Mm-hmm. Seems like a lot of actors when they've been at it for a while.
Adrienne Barbeau as Catwoman.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, and that's a good thing. It's a fantastic thing.
It is. It was just like such a great series, and he said, he said, "I am Batman," and yes, he was, and he will be sorely missed.
He earned that role.
He really did,
and he personified it, and he was perfect for it. I think that's really all we can really say about it.
So, actually, wrapping things up, what was one of your favorite? I mean, Batman episodes. It doesn't necessarily have to be animated series. It could be like the Justice League series. It could be like any stretch of the animated universe that he had taken part in.
I actually do have a favorite episode, and I may have said this before, but it was when it's when Batman is faced with his childhood hero of the Gray Ghost.
Oh, which has my other favorite Batman in it, Adam West as the Gray Ghost.
And so there's a guy going around Gotham as the Gray Ghost doing kinds of criminal types of things. Yeah. And Adam West was the actor who was the portrayer of the Gray Ghost back in the TV show that Bruce Wayne as a child would watch. And so he kind of teams up with him to find the person who's responsible for it, and they find him. And there's this one little end of the scene where as Batman tells the actor guy as he's dressed up as a Gray Ghost, you were really one of my inspirations for doing this. And he's like, really? I just thought this was such a crappy TV show. And so the person who did the whole crimes are like unmasked.
Oh yeah.
Suddenly everybody watches the Gray Ghost again. It's a big, huge hit, and they're going to make a Gray Ghost movie or whatever.
Yeah.
And the actor is signing autographs, and then Bruce Wayne comes up and he's got his, I'm a big fan. You have always been a big inspiration. He basically says something that he said as he was Batman, and the guy's like, oh, wink.
Yes. Actually, that had another great scene, because it was like that scene where he takes the Gray Ghost to the Batcave and takes him to this one little ante room where he has all his Gray Ghost memorabilia.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then he's telling him, it's like, as a kid I used to watch it with my father. And this is a great scene because Adam West, because Adam West does great comedy acting, and
yes, he did.
He was always great at playing himself up. But in this scene, he just really brings it down, and he just says, "So it wasn't for nothing." And it was just the way he did that. It was just like, you're just like, oh, just gets you right there.
Well, the thing about Adam West's Batman is that he was only able to do the role for a couple years.
Yes.
And the way they did Batman back in the 60s was a little corny and goofy and everything else like that.
Which I absolutely loved.
Which was perfect for back then.
Yeah.
But it kind of would have been nice to see Batman a little more serious back then too. I think that would have been kind of cool. 60s serious Batman.
But I loved the 60s Batman. I mean, it was its own entity, and I mean, it was definitely a product of the time. But I'm kind of split when it comes to my favorite episode, because I love the one with the first one with Mr. Freeze. I thought that was a great episode, because it's like they took a character that was sort of like a B Batman character, and it was a character that wasn't really built up till the animated series, and they gave him that sort of very tragic backstory and made him a little less goofy and a little more ominous and a little more tragic. The other one was the one they introduced Ra's al Ghul in, who was always kind of one of my favorite Batman villains.
That's another good one.
The way he was just sort of portrayed by David Warner, who was just such an amazing actor. And I mean, I never knew that he had for years that he had done the the voice of Ra's al Ghul. I knew him from like Time Bandits, and he had done these great like Doctor Who spin-offs where he played like an alternate universe version of the Doctor, playing it kind of like David Warner. But I mean, his Ra's al Ghul was just like so. I mean, that was sort of the high watermark of the character, because it was a Bond villain. I mean, and I think that's the thing I loved about the animated series and Kevin Conroy's portrayal of Batman, is like it had that like very like James Bond feeling of like the Neil Adams thing, where it wasn't just the dark. It wasn't just like the dark Kevin Nolan. It was very comic book. Oh, thank you for doing this, because I felt like we had to do an episode like this, because it's like this was it's oh my goodness, it was the 30th anniversary. I realized that this was the 30th anniversary of the Batman the Animated Series, and I thought we couldn't do we had to do it like a 30.
I know.
He was my Batman, and I can just so clearly remember that when the animated series came out and how much it turned me around. And I was just like, this, it's like his performance made all my skepticism about the way the animated series went away. Then finding out it was like being produced by Warner Brothers that was creating like Tiny Toon Adventures and Animaniacs. I mean, it just blew everything away.
Oh, wow. Yikes. Good times.
Yep. But on behalf of Andrew, thank you for listening to The Mental Suppository. The Mental Suppository has been produced by Brett Hurholtz and Jamie Billings. Our podcast has been distributed by Scott M. Graves and M. The Media Project. Theme song has been generously donated by Mr. B. the Gentleman Rhymer. Visit his website at mrbthegentlemanrhymer.bandzoogle.com. We always want to hear from our fans with suggestions for future episodes. Send us an email at mentalsuppository@gmail.com.